I did it! I conquered the world! What's up everyone and welcome back to CBX Media. We had the opportunity to alpha test an awesome resource management sim called Simpocalypse. This game takes place at the end of the world as you rebuild society from the ground up. There are many options for upgrading and several tracks to choose from for upgrading your military power and economic prowess. The game has a great research feature with idle point acquisition. The game does, however, bottleneck heavily on research, so be sure to always invest into your teachers and researchers. Every starting continent has a different starting perk, and the game recommends Africa and its build speed increase, but I would strongly recommend a new player to choose Europe for its research and knowledge points increase. It will allow you to acquire research points much faster. First, let's go over the top of the UI. From the top left to the bottom right, we have the play and pause button for starting and stopping simulation, the current in-game date and time. Next, we have the speed selector, or time-lapse selector as it's referred to in-game. This goes all the way to 10x with further research point investment. Next, we have three numbers: total citizens, citizen cap, and idle citizens. It's worth noting that having too many idle citizens can make your happiness, productivity, and health drop, so be careful when mass dumping houses, as your citizen count may go up higher than you can manage. Health is the overall wellness of your citizens, which is affected by multiple factors: water toxicity, total doctors, lack of food and water. Productivity is the multiplier for resource production. 100% is great, but 200% is better. You can build roads in the Public Buildings tab to increase your connectivity bonus, pushing your resource productivity to double. This is super helpful for freeing up citizens if you have trouble filling out a factory or outfitting your army. Next, we have your building queue. And finally, your click settings. This is a quality of life feature that allows you to select incremental multipliers of 10 for faster building and citizen assignment as you get further in the game and work with greater numbers. Now, a quick breakdown of the resource bar. Food rations, people gotta eat or they'll die. Water. They'll also need water, so keep it plentiful and toxicity-free. Build spots. You need space to build things, so make sure to keep sending explorers to new regions to discover more land to build on, or you'll be unable to build any new buildings. Wood. Primary uses for energy production and constructing new buildings. Energy. It powers factories and higher-tier resource generators. Stone, iron, and uranium. These last three resources are found through mining plants. These resources are used for constructing higher-tier buildings and growing your army. Research points. As I mentioned before, research points are your best friend in this game and your worst enemy if they become a bottleneck. Finally, we have gold. Gold is, well, it's totally unnecessary at the worst and a helpful conquest tool at best. Gold's only real purpose is to help you later in the game to buy out territories and establish economic colonies while expanding your global empire. Now, let's look at the main tabs on the left. We have four primary sections with their own tabs. The first section is the World tab, which has the Resources, Research, and Map tabs. The Resource tab shows all your resource generators. Here you can buy, destroy, and assign citizens to your many resource generators in the areas of food, water, energy, and mining. In the next tab, you have your research tree. Now, there's a lot to talk about here. On the left, we have a color legend on the different squares, perk points and prestige points. Prestige is a nice feature, but I found it completely unnecessary. The game is currently balanced in a way that makes prestige a helpful tool for the struggling player, but completely unnecessary for the veteran resource sim player. I prestiged once out of curiosity in my playthrough and found it completely unnecessary. The only perks it gave me were perk points to spend on additional time-lapse speeds past 5x. The research tree itself has four branches: economic, social, army, resources. I'll break these down in detail. Economic. This section is for upgrading your production factory, which allows you to produce all kinds of items to buy and sell on the world market. More on the world market later. This is how you make gold. Gold is your resource for colonization of the globe using economic resources, i.e., buying your way to world domination. Social. This section is where you upgrade your infrastructure: hospitals, schools, roads, etc. This is the lifeblood of your population. Everything you need to keep your citizens happy and healthy is here. Army. This is where you build your military might, with a war factory that poops out tanks all day long to expand your global empire. These upgrades allow you to expand your forces and their total power, and also there's an automation section that allows for increased speeds of your time-lapse. Resources. As it says, this is your resource research, finding new resource generators and improving their efficiency. Simple enough. One thing the game doesn't do a great job mentioning, however, is that some items are hidden with a question mark until you start researching more items along the tree. One very vital part is the water filtration system. You need water filtration in order to detoxify new sources of water as you construct them. Otherwise, your citizens will get unhealthy and die. Research is very important, so be sure to invest in a research center and a school. These buildings help you to increase the rate at which you can earn knowledge or research points. The next tab is the map. The map is divided into three levels: territory, region, and world. When conquering regions around the globe to expand your empire, you must first capture 5 spaces per territory within the region, then all territories within that region. You can also buy out each territory with gold later on after research and gold acquisition through the economic power and buying and selling on the world market. The immediate goal of the game is to completely conquer the world, of course, so later on in the game, you unlock colonization automation. This is done by either establishing an economic colony with gold, or a military colony that you then fill with tanks. There's also an auto-expand feature which allows a colony to jump to the next region for expansion upon completion. The game is still a little finicky with this feature though. The auto-expand doesn't always seem to work on itself, or it turns itself off without telling the player what parameters forced it to turn off. When fighting individual battles with tank combat, there's also an auto feature which makes it go much faster, but after unlocking the 40mm artillery, you can kind of rush through this combat very fast. Later on in the game, individual tank combat becomes completely inefficient when compared to the speed of thick-stocked colonies. As you expand into other areas and conquer new lands, you can then send citizens to explore new areas. This allows for more room to expand, finding new sources of water and mining, and even to find new parts to upgrade your tanks with. Exploration can also be automated with further resource unlocks. Now back to the main UI. The next tab is the Social tab. Here we have public buildings and public jobs. Public buildings are your safety and infrastructure. You can build up your infrastructure in the first section and then assign citizens to various public service jobs in the next tab. Ensuring you always have 100% coverage for all public services is important to keeping automation in the nominal zone. The next section from the main UI is Army. In this area, you have your War Factory and your Tank Plan Management. In the War Factory, you can produce 4 different tank designs that you arrange in the Manage Plans tab. In the next tab, you manage your tank designs and your inventory of parts. As you progress and explore new areas, you'll find various tank parts which you can combine and use to customize and improve your vast army. This requires research point investment, as does most everything else in the game, of course. The last section is the factory. The first tab in this section is your factory or factories if you have multiple. This is where you select which items to produce and improve in your factory. The next tab is product stocked, which simply displays your various goods and their quantity. The last tab is the global market. A simple stock ticker bar graph which you can use to sell high and buy low for easy gold in early game. It is a bit tedious and boring to sit here for too long, so I just worry about upping your manufacturing and coming back to the global market occasionally to sell goods. The prices can be affected by various in-game events, but in general, it's a bit empty of a feature that I had zero desire to touch after the initial early game introduction mission. In late game, however, using the global market can be very detrimental. The higher in quantity that you buy and sell in, the lower per item you will actually get. As you can see here, when I sell 10, the average price is fair. But when I sell 10 million, the average price is a fraction of that, meaning I'm losing worth in a lot of the valuable resources that I have. Those resources would be in better hands if I just produced less and used those people in those building spots, go somewhere else, maybe do more research, build more schools and research centers, use them to get more research points. I was a little disappointed to say that I lost a couple trillion in gold because I was buying low and selling high with a little kind of exploit that I thought was an exploit, but it was just kind of a little bit of a bug. But anyway, lastly, I want to talk about events. Later in game, more events will come your way, such as fire, extortion, riots. These events will always happen regardless of how well you are doing in game. But later in game, they're just nothing but a nuisance. Someone extorts me and threatens to start a fire. Sure, go for it. The fire is contained before I can even click the notification that a fire started in the first place. It's a bit odd and pointless later in game. Overall, the game was pretty fun. The developers were very open to all my quality of life suggestions and assisting with fixing any bugs and receiving reports to recreate them for future patches. The game works surprisingly well on ultra-wide monitors, as you'll see from the gameplay footage ahead. Only slightly obscuring tank combat, which never really gave me any trouble anyways. Global market is tedious and could definitely be improved upon quite a bit. This was really fun, and I'm very thankful to GameX Studio for the early access code. I hope you guys will enjoy this game as well. Check out the game and their Discord link in the description below. Thank you everyone, and take care.